Good background light there, Mark.
What's that?
Good background light.
Yeah, I use the blur on the back as a default. I think it's
Yeah.
better.
It's good. Okay, good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 Selectmen's meeting. Josh, would you like to do the opening minutes?
Sure.
Meeting opening.
Opening comments. Winter parking ban is in effect until March 20th, 2023. From 12 a.m., that's midnight, till 6 a.m. All cars must be removed from the street during this time. Visit the parking clerk's page at nahant.org or nahantpolice.org for more information. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, February 20th, 2023 in observance of President's Day. Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, the Alex the Jester performance will be performed in the main hall at the Town Hall starting at 11 a.m. This is a family-friendly, free event sponsored by the Nahant Public Library. Alex is a gibberish-speaking jester that puts on a show of magic, music, comedy, and more, and is fun for all ages. Excise tax bills are due March 1st, 2023. Water and sewer bills are due March 2nd, 2023. Call the Treasurer Collector's Office with any questions. Annual dog license applications are due April 1st, 2023. Please submit to the Town Clerk's Office. Town elections will be held on April 29th, 2023. Nomination papers are available in the Town Clerk's Office. Nomination papers are due back by Friday, March 10th. A full list of open seats can be found on the election page at nahant.org.
I have these Selectman Antrim, if you want me to read them out loud.
Sure.
A member of the Board of Selectmen for a 3-year term, there's one position. The town moderator for a 1-year term, town clerk for a 1-year term, library trustee for a 3-year term, Board of Assessors for a 3-year term, constable for a 1-year term, housing authority, one position for a 5-year term, and school committee, there are 2 seats for 3-year terms.
All right, thanks for that, Tony. On the subject of scholarships, the Charles Kelly Scholarship, applications should be mailed to the Selectman's office at the Town Hall by Friday, April 14th, 2023. And the Bob and Janet Mudley Memorial Scholarship application is due by May 15th, 2023. I'd encourage anybody that has a senior in high school to submit applications for those scholarships. I know in the case of the Kelly Scholarship, last year we had only maybe 4 applications, so it's $1,000, and you simply write an anonymous essay about what service means to you. Applications and instructions and mailing addresses for both scholarships can be found at the scholarship page at nahant.org. I don't have any additional opening comments. I don't know, Gene or Mark, if you have anything to add.
I have none.
I have none.
Okay,
right.
Mark, if you would, new business.
Okay, we have a vote to approve a 20-day exemption from a special municipal employee in the Cultural Council. I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize Gene Canty to execute the approval of exemption on its behalf with regard to Katharina Radberger, a member of the Nahant Cultural Council.
Seconded.
Discussion.
The Cultural Council, a Cultural Council member is requesting a 20-day exemption. The Cultural Council applied and received a grant for a concert series where the member will also be performing. The approved grant was $2,313 for her entire project, and the exact total figure for the project is estimated to be $4,550. The Cultural Council did not vote on the use of these funds for this project. However, this member did not vote. Oh, excuse me, let me go back. The Cultural Council did vote on the use of these funds for the project. However, this member did not vote. The concerts will take place at Ellingwood Chapel with a day and time to be decided. This type of exemption also needs to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
My question to that, what does that, all in all, what does that mean?
I can give it a temp. I'll let Tony, a town council, talk about exemptions.
Yeah, I can deal with that. It emanates from Chapter 268A of the Mass General Laws, and it clarifies, it classifies, as essentially volunteers as special municipal employees, and it belongs to the actual position, not the actual person. So it's the position on the Nahant Cultural Council. And if you're a special municipal employee, the conflict of laws are less strict in that situation. So in this particular case, Ms. Rettelberger can take advantage of that grant as long as she had abstained from the discussion and the voting and had went to the SEC, which is the state, and got their approval. And at the final step to get the selectmen to sign up on that same approval under Section 20D of Chapter 268A. It's pretty common.
Further discussion?
I've read a description of the event. Sounds wonderful. So looking forward to it.
I see Katrina, you're on. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the concerts. So we have still, I still need to determine the time. It most likely will be late summer, early fall. That's a good time. And Tony Balletti was so kind to offer me the Ellingwood Chapel. I think that would be a wonderful venue. I have been playing there for many times already. So really looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina.
Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye. Mark, you want to?
Okay, we have ongoing business. We have an update on the North Strand project update. Tony?
Yeah, so the Northern Strand, is a reminder to folks on the call here, the Northern Strand project is the bike path that currently ends on or starts at Market Street in Lynn. And the last part of the project is to create a bike lane on the northbound side of the Linway. So basically from Market Street to the Rotary, taking a lane away and creating a two-way protected bike lane that'll get to the Rotary and then jump off of the road onto the parkland area, cross the street at the exit for the causeway, and provide access to the beach. This project is something that's been in the works or in design phase for quite some time. We've talked about this. We've talked about this issue a few times in our meetings. We went out there and spoke with the contractors of the design firm of the project on site, and they've had a public meeting in the past. We asked them to have an additional public meeting, and they have scheduled that. So wanted to make sure that people were aware that there will be a public meeting, virtual, on Thursday, March 16th at 6:30 p.m. And we'll publish the information about that public meeting on our website and put it out on social media, and hopefully, the Lynn paper will pick it up and make sure people are aware that that meeting is occurring, so that if anyone has any questions or comments, they can sign on to the meeting and hear from MassDOT and provide those public comments at that time.
Tony, has anything changed since we first saw the designs on this?
No, we sent in a letter and had made some requests for changes that were determined not to be feasible by MassDOT. But one of the requests that we not as so any of the requests that we made related to changing of the design were not included. One of the requests that we made was that they come out for another public meeting, and that they include communities like Swampscott and Marblehead, as that northbound side of the Linway traffic from Market Street to the Rotary is primarily Nahant, Swampscott, and Marblehead residents, and Lynn residents as well. But for the most part, they're actually communities beyond Lynn where the project resides. So we ask that they have additional public meetings. This is one of them. It may be the only public meeting. I'm not sure if they'll be having additional ones, but their design is at 100% right now.
They did pull back they did create a longer, not only lane, right? I know that wasn't the big change that we were hoping for, but from the original plan, you know what I'm referring to, Tony?
From the original plan, they did. We commented again after that, asking them to extend it even further, and they did not.
Yeah, I mean, but I agree, you're right. It's people in Nahant and Swampscott and Marblehead should definitely have a say in this thing, because it's I think it's inevitable that it'll affect their commute.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you're a cyclist. How's this project fit the cyclist wants?
Yeah, well, I have I've biked the bike trail. It goes from Everett to Nahant. It's really nice. It's in some sections it's really nice going over the marshes and Revere and that area. Most of it is off road. It's very well protected. I didn't feel unsafe at all. Maybe going down South Common Street and Lynn a little, but anyone who likes to bike and wants to take an adventure, I'd recommend it this spring. It's really nice. It ends right at sort of by the Encore in Everett, the casino. So it's a pretty nice course. I wish that they had taken Tony's recommendation and put it on the south side of the Linway, but that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But they did pull it back, as Josh said, to make sure that the Nahant lane only remains pretty much intact.
Okay. Right away discussion, Josh. Thank you, Mark.
Well, I'll get this started, but we've talked about the rights of way and the need to sort of repair it or effort to get those title searched, surveyed, marked, and enhanced. A couple meetings over the past, but the town has submitted a CPC grant for some additional funds to get some of that work done. Some of the money will be spent in Little Nahant, where the title searches and the surveys are already completed. So the money in Little Nahant will go towards marking and or enhancements to those rights of ways. And the other portion of the money will go towards title searches for the rights of way in certain parts of Nahant. I don't think there'll be enough money to do all of Nahant for the title searches. So title searches and surveys for whatever portion of Nahant was designated in that application. I'm not sure if that was specific to particular areas, but that's sort of the soup and nuts of it. So I know all of us are in favor of improving our rights of ways and preventing encroachment. And, I think personally, there's not much point in having a public right of way if the public doesn't A, know about it, and B, have access to it. So that's the goal here. And Tony, please fill in any holes that I missed.
No, I think you pretty much nailed it there. I mean, the way that we thought and talked a lot about how we wanted to, further advance the work that was done a few years back through the planning board and CPC funding and the town administrator's office. And it kind of got put on the shelf a little bit over the last couple of years. And we want to pick it back up where we left off. And, I think a simple way to explain it is it's like a 3-phase process of first doing title research. So, hiring a title research firm that would actually look in the registry and find out where town property exists. And, basically what do the maps say? Where do these rights of ways exist? That's kind of step one. Step two is then actually doing site on the ground, on-site survey work and marking out where those rights of ways exist around town. And then step three is really making them accessible, making sure people are aware of where they are. There's any encroachment, dealing with any encroachment issues. Step three is the hardest because each right of way is so unique and there's a lot of different elements that come into play. As far as Little Nahant goes, I would say that the coastal right of ways are in the phase 3 part of the process. What we really want to do is continue to work on that phase 3 for coastal right of ways in Little Nahant, but start really expanding the work in Big Nahant, with phase 1, 2, and 3. Does that help explain?
No, it helps very much. And Josh, thanks for your interpretation as well. The only questions I've had on it so far, Tony, is what happens to a right of way that goes down from the inland down towards the ocean and cuts itself off at, let's say, an area that you can't go to the ocean from.
Like a ledge, you mean like a ledge, Gene, or something like that?
Yeah,
I think that's going to be, a policy decision, a discussion amongst the Board of Selectmen, Town Council, and myself. And, there's certainly liability issues that we have to be concerned about. But certainly getting to the end of that right of way and at least being able to view the ocean is something to offer. And it is public land available to our residents. So, in the old days, many of these rights of ways led down to, were for access to the ocean, and there may have been stairways or boardwalks that were on the rocks, and over time those have disappeared and eroded, and things have changed. So that's why I say phase 3 is the most complicated, because it's unique to each particular right of way. And we have to kind of take those case by case.
okay, thanks. Any other discussion, Mark?
No.
Josh?
No.
Conservation restriction on town-owned space. I think, Josh, you asked to speak about this.
Maybe not directly, but I'll get the dialogue rolling. It's something we've talked about at a couple of meetings in the past. The the concept would be to put conservation restrictions on open spaces in the Nahant to sort of make sure they are preserved forever as open spaces. So right now it's done through zoning, but zoning can be changed at a town meeting vote. So it's kind of insurance against, suppose the town's in financial trouble and we say, well, let's sell Marjoram Park so a developer can put in some houses there, or something like that. So I know town council Dan Scripp has put some time into researching how this would be done. And I think originally we thought it would take a town meeting vote, but it turns out that this can just be a vote of the Board of Selectmen. And there are some open space areas that are, let's say it's a little more complicated for example, the ball fields or things like that. So I think what we'd like to do is start with the areas that are already designated as parks. So that would include Bailey's Hill, Fort Ruckman area, Marjoram Park, Lodge Park, and I think that's it for the moment. But so we'll work out the logistics of how that has to be done and put it to a vote for the Board of Selectmen. Then, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's the right thing to do to protect those spaces, especially in the Nahant where our parks are a very limited percentage of our land area. So that's basically it. I don't know, Dan, Tony, Mark.
I spoke with Amy Questle from KP Law, who we've really leaned on items like this for her legal interpretation. Our first step is to really do some title research and some deed research on those parcels that you mentioned. And Dan's going to be looking into that. If those parcels were dedicated to the town for the purpose of open space, then they actually already have Article 97 protection, which is very solid protection of those open spaces for passive recreation. If they do not, then the town could, that's step one. If they don't, then we have to decide whether if we want to pursue either Article 97 protection or conservation restrictions on those properties. Conservation restriction would be definitely the simpler way to go about it and provide the same type of protection long term. It would require some communication with the Conservation Commission, because I would assume they would be the body that would actually hold the conservation restriction on those properties. But we're in the beginning stages of this process and learning about what the impacts of those conservation restrictions would be to the town. So we're going to keep doing that research, and we'll make sure to keep the board informed and likely have some sort of joint meeting in the future with the Concom regarding that topic. Dan, do you have anything to add?
No, you encapsulated pretty well, Tony. The big thing is passive recreation and just making sure that the title is in the town's name, because given the age of our town, sometimes we see the Nahant Land Company popping up where we don't expect it. So that's where we are now.
So let me get this straight. You mentioned two entities: a conservation restriction on Article 9, a designation by Article 97. So a conservation restriction only requires a vote of the Board of Selectmen. I suppose a future board could vote to undo that. Is that correct?
I thought we needed legislative approval to undo it.
I thought that under Article 97, you would need legislative, 2/3 of the Massachusetts state legislature to overturn it. So I'm just trying to figure out the distinction between the two.
I believe that the conservation restriction would be recognized by the state, similar to like a preservation restriction is, like on our town hall or library or Green Lawn Cemetery, and it would we'll get some definitive answers for like what it would take to reverse that. I think it's a pretty high bar. The distinction explained to me, and again, it's, we're still early on understanding the differences, but Article 97 protection usually comes with a property when it's dedicated to a town for a particular purpose. Town meeting, if you didn't have that, I believe you could go to town meeting to amend the deed of that property in some way to provide it Article 97 protection. But the conservation restriction is another way to go that provides a similar form of protection in a simpler process. So there's two different options that we could pursue. However, if Dan discovers that those properties were provided to the town for the purpose of open space and passive recreation to begin with, then they already have the protection and we may not need to take any action. So we first look at the deeds of the properties and then present to the board, what options do we have for protection? What avenues would it take for each of those options to be reversed? What impacts would they have on the town as far as ability to use or improve those properties in the future?
Tony, what would designate an area that's conservation restricted?
I'm sorry, I skipped a little bit when I didn't hear you what you asked.
I said, what would differentiate a conservation restricted area in town open space?
Well, it would be a vote of town meeting, a vote of the Board of Selectmen to apply a conservation restriction onto a piece of property it's a legal restriction and recognized versus a piece of property that's zoned by the town as open space or natural resource.
Okay.
But you can't put, it was made clear to me that like you cannot have conservation restriction on a piece of property that is, used for like a ball field, a soccer field, a baseball field. It's really for passive recreation.
Okay, all right. Think I'm there.
Well, for example, Tony, the town wharf was given to the town by the Tudor estate for passive recreation. But would that qualify?
That may constitute Article 97 protection.
Sounds like it would. Mhm.
Yeah, it might. Are you guys losing internet connection?
Your frozen. Your picture is frozen. Your voice is okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm having some internet connection here at the town hall.
Yeah, kind of looks, well, your face is frozen, but your voice are okay.
Jailhouse wall.
It's not the most flattering
Shut your
picture
mouth.
either, Tony.
Your photos are if it counts for anything, your photos are frozen on my end too. So
Oh, really?
I'll see what's going on here. And
Okay, any further discussion on that particular ongoing business segment? Opening and closing the annual town meeting.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to open the annual town meeting warrant.
Seconded.
Discussion.
so I really would like to be able to share my screen.
We're going to vote on this?
Yeah, you need to vote to open the warrant.
Yeah, so we can do that.
I just read them.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just read it.
Yeah, so, and I seconded it. So, do you want to call for a vote, Gene?
Yes, roll call vote.
Josh Antoni?
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
All right, so it's now open. And if Tony can share his screen. Wink if you can hear us, Tony.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
You're
well,
fine.
my screen,
You could,
for some reason, let's see if I,
do you want to try logging out and logging back in, or do you want us to, I have the articles listed here on the paper if you want me to read off what they are or read off the unusual?
I can read them. I can read them. The problem is if I'm the host of the Zoom meeting, so
Okay.
if I log off, it'll cause an issue for the entire meeting. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll just read through the articles. I won't read them word for word. They explain them. We'll have a copy of them up on our website tomorrow, and we'll be sending these over to the finance committee. So
Yeah, why don't you try that? I mean, normally if this was a live meeting in town hall, people wouldn't be able to see it anyway, right? So it would be talking through it verbally.
right. So the town meeting is going to be May 20th, Saturday, May 20th, here in the town hall, starting at 12:30 p.m. As always, our first article deals with transfers. So that's voting to transfer funds from the current fiscal year of 2023. The second article is related to snow and ice for the current fiscal year of.
Just lost you, Tony.
Oh, no.
Well, we're still live and in color here.
You
Yeah,
can, Josh, perhaps you could go through.
yeah. Let me just find my right piece of paper here.
If not, I can grab it.
Okay, I'll get it started. We'll tag team it, okay? Yeah, transfers for snow and ice is Article 2. Article 3 is authorize the payments of prior fiscal year bills. Article 4, salary and classification plan for the year beginning July 1st, 2023. Article 5, compensation for elected officials, fix the salaries. Tony said that we are not getting a cost of living increase. Omnibus, to see the town will vote to raise appropriate funds, transfer funds to defray the charges for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2023. Article 7, water and sewer enterprise, to see if we will vote and appropriate available funds, transfer funds, typical water and sewer enterprise thing. Article 8 is the water and sewer paving. That's $50,000 for costs incidentally related to paving due to water and sewer work. Article 9, rubbish enterprise, to see if this is the usual rubbish enterprise, collecting the trash fees. Article 10, compost area, to see if the town will raise $30,000 for costs associated with the maintenance of the compost area. Article 11, recreation revolving. So this is funding the Parks and Recreation accounts for basketball, sailing, tennis, 4th of July, tot lot, etc. Article 12, revolving funds. I guess that's carrying over from the last year. Chime in here, anybody, if I'm not summarizing this correctly. OPEB, that's $25,000 to OPEB. That's other post-employment benefits and liability trust fund. That's something that over the last 5 years now, we've been making a concerted effort to get up to the recommended amounts, and we're pretty much there. Article 14, the stabilization fund. Fund that with $200,000 to the stabilization fund. That brings us I think close to our goal of 10% of the budget. This is another fund that was nearly depleted 5 years ago. So it's great to see that fully funded. Paving, $100,000 for paving. I know Tony walked through the paving plans for this coming year, and it's pretty extensive. So that's $100,000 for paving. Article 16 is the Council on Aging kitchen, $50,000 for that. There are some existing funds already. I think some existing CP funds available, and I think maybe some funds from last year, which brings it to somewhere in the ballpark of $150,000 for the kitchen. Tony gave me a tour of the kitchen this afternoon, actually. Looks like it could use some serious upgrades, and of course there's regulations involved with the kitchen. It's not like your home kitchen. If people are wondering why that costs so much. Article 17 is the transferring of $724 for infrastructure enhancement. There must be some bookkeeping thing, small bookkeeping thing. Article 18, sewer and DPW capital, $300,000 to purchase 2 new dump trucks. So those are the 2 large dump trucks which are nearing end of life. They're $150,000 each. Article 19, MWRA borrowing. This is I think something we do every year. Interest-free borrowing $500,000 from the MWRA, and this will be spent on new water lines. I think there's one planned for Fox Hill Road and a couple other roads that are escaping me at the moment.
Hi, Josh, I'm back.
Okay. I'm up to Article 20. Made a lot of progress while you're gone.
All right.
I'll do this last one and then you can take over if you'd like. Article 20 is the Chapter 90 highway funds. That's money. The state sets that number. It's usually on the order of $90,000 to $100,000. And I'll catch my breath and you can take over with Article 21, Tony.
Okay, Article 21 will be Community Preservation Committee articles. We have a placeholder in this warrant for that. We typically get their final recommended articles in next month sometime, so those will get added into the warrant at a later date. Article 22 is related to the Open Space Committee. So Open Space Committee, Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee requested that we amend our general bylaws to formalize their committee as a standing committee. It had gone through a couple different changes over the years, or couple different forms over the years, and it makes a lot of sense to formalize their committee as a standing committee instead of working off of some older authorization language. That article doesn't change the number of members. It doesn't change how they're appointed or what their overall mission is.
I think it actually does increase doesn't it increase the number from 5 to 7? I think it does.
Oh, I thought that it definitely is a 7. Would make it a 7-member committee. I thought it already had that ability, but I may be wrong.
Oh, maybe it did. I know there's only 5 on there now, but
Yeah. It may be wrong, but
the driver for that is that the name of the committee is involves making the plan. They've made the plan. The plan's been approved by the state. So now essentially their ongoing business would be to continue the administration of Nahant's open spaces.
correct. A copy of that a copy of that full-length article will be available online and in the clerk's office, as well as an appendix in the Finance Committee book. Article 23 is amending our police bylaws. This has to do with feeding the wildlife. This is an issue that has come up as part of our coyote issues here in town, wanting to strengthen our ability to prevent the intentional or unintentional feeding of wildlife in our community. Dan, do you have anything you want to add? You helped draft it. If you
Sure. We went to the AG's decisions and found the language that they approved after other town meetings in other towns. So we took that, we tailored it to what we like here in Nahant. We prefer here in Nahant. And we also had some citizen input that was very helpful. So we integrated some of that into the current version that exists today. And all it needs is a majority vote at town meeting to become one of our new police bylaws. It'll be within that realm.
Thank you. And so a full-length version of that article will also be available in the clerk's office on our website and as an appendix in the Finance Committee book. The next article is, I had an article in here for, in the version that's in front of you, the Board of Selectmen, there was an article or a placeholder in here for a wastewater bylaw amendment. Dan and I had a couple questions on it. I sent the questions over to the Conservation Commission, and I took it off of this draft of the warrant for now. We can always add it later once we get some feedback from the Conservation Commission on some of those questions. So I'm skipping over that and going right into the next two articles are going to be the short-term rental bylaws. The first one will be the proposal submitted to us by the short-term rental committee. And the second article is a citizen petition article related to short-term rental bylaws. I see that Wayne, the chairman of the short-term rental committee, is on the call. So Wayne, if I'm going to ask you to unmute if you want to give the Board of Selectmen a briefing. There you go.
Okay, am I in?
Yes.
All set? Okay, so let me give you the Reader's Digest version. I'm kind of hope that you have a draft in front of you that's marked final 2/14/23. And so we have changes to our zoning bylaw that the short-term rental committee is suggesting. We're going to make changes to our existing section 4.06 renting of room to roomers or lodges. It's a minor change that just changes that to require that that type of arrangement be for more than 30 days. It also, we're going to add a section 4.06A, short-term rentals. That will in the version of that is that the short-term rentals that are being offered by a property owner that is not an actual resident of that property will require a special permit. We call that a non-owner occupied short-term rental. We have two other versions of short-term rentals. One is called an owner occupied short-term rental. That's a rental that would be like I'm going to offer up a bedroom within my own home. And an owner adjacent short-term rental, which is if I owned a two-family, I'm living in one unit and renting the other unit. Owner occupied and owner adjacent in our proposal is going to be allowed as a matter of right. And the non-owner occupied will require a special permit. We've got pages and pages of definitions. We are modifying the table of use regulations to demonstrate, to just follow what I just described to you in our table of use. And that's that's the bulk of the zoning regulation. And then we also have amendments in additions to the general bylaw, which includes a whole new article that's called short-term rentals. And that whole article will includes definition in the area, requirements, kind of a whole bunch of rules that at this point in time will be under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. And registration and registration requirements and inspection requirements. Again, those registration, like registration fees and stuff like that, still has to be worked out. But so it kind of gets put back on the Board of Selectmen's table, only because right now the Board of Selectmen is the only body within the town government that's authorized to issue licenses. So the idea is that each of these short-term rentals will be licensed by the town of Nahant through this process and pay a fee, and all that stuff is still to be determined. But I think we really kind of found the middle ground between those within our town that would like to see no short-term rentals in town, and others that would like to see it be like a wide open field. So I think we hit the middle ground. I think we're going to help the people that might want to use their property for supplemental income without making it a Wild West show. And I think we did a good job.
Wayne, thanks for that summary, and especially thanks for the time you and the committee put into this. This was not an easy task, so really appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
Hey, Wayne, likewise, this is Gene. I haven't attended most of your meetings. I hope everybody understands and appreciates the effort you guys put into it. It was always up front and visible. Great job.
Thank you very much.
I just want to join in on that to you, Wayne, and your committee. Not easy being on some committees, especially this one. So I think you guys were very professional in the way you went about it, and open-minded, and come up with a good set of recommendations. One recommendation that maybe you mentioned, and I missed it, but is there a cap on the number of?
Oh yes, I forgot to mention that. So one of our regulations, it's actually would be included in the general bylaw section, is that the number of short-term rental licenses would be limited to 4% of the total number of housing units within the town of Nahant, as determined by the Board of Assessors. So the idea would be that there will be a cap, and so that way it doesn't get out of hand as far as the numbers.
Okay, thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Does that pretty much answer the questions anyone might have?
Yes.
But like I said, we actually finalized this document last night, and it really came together at the end with very little controversy. We all kind of ended up in the middle ground without it went well.
Tony, are we going to have an opportunity to look through this and then revisit it somewhere in the near future?
Well, so tonight, what we'll be doing is we actually send this article directly over to the planning board, because or at least the zoning portion of it, because there is because of that zoning impact or the zoning change, it requires the planning board to go through a hearing process, and then they provide a report of recommendations for town meeting.
Okay.
it's somewhat a formality of a pass-through. But I also wanted to thank Wayne and commend, Wayne and the members of the committee for their work. The committee was represented by Wayne, the building inspector, John Coulon, our public health agent, a member from the planning board, and two resident appointments that I think both came with different perspectives on the issue. And I think that the 5-member board was made up of a wide variety of perspectives. And, I think they went through a long process of ironing out a lot of different opinions and points of emphasis. And they were able to come together and produce a suggestion of a bylaw that can be voted on at town meeting, which is, as you guys have mentioned already, it was no easy task, and I think they did a great job, recognizing the different perspectives in what they're proposing. Their job is not done yet. As Wayne is here presenting to us, their committee will present to the planning board through their public process. And they'll also be presenting to the finance committee as the finance committee gears up their preparations for town meeting and putting their own recommendation on this article. So there's still some groundwork to cover here, but really solid job at this point.
Did you mention Rob Thibault?
Yes, Rob Thibault and Marie Hladikova were my two resident appointments, and both brought a great perspective and knowledge from, I think, both sides of this issue, and I think helped Wayne, John, and Steve as the planning board member of the committee. I think the 5 of them were able to kind of put their heads together and come up with something that was passable for town meeting.
2 great selections.
Yeah. Wayne, I think we're going to probably seek your input when it comes time to put together rules and regulations. We may seek the committee's input on that.
Oh, we've got a whole list. It's actually, believe it or not, the rules and regulations were the main body of the discussion in our meetings. It wasn't as much how to allow these short-term rentals to exist. It was, most of the discussion was not should we outlaw the practice, but how do we make them work and within a neighborhood and neighborhood, neighbors per se. And so more people were concerned about rules than they were about legalities, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A number of people have asked the question, can we vote on whether to have short-term rentals or not? And Dan, I think you answered that at one of our meetings.
My opinion on that was we cannot, and no town in the Commonwealth or city has done that. They have severely restricted them, but I have seen no bans. The statute says that we have the ability to regulate. Regulate, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, does not mean ban. It means regulate. It means control, not eliminate. So I don't believe we have the ability to ban all.
That's all. Yeah. Thank you. Further discussion?
We did receive a citizens petition that proposed a different set of bylaws. That will be the last article, well, the next article on the warrant. After that will be the continued committees article. So that citizen petition article does impact zoning as well. So as you can see on the agenda, we'll be accepting and sending that to the planning board alongside the recommendation from the short-term rental committee. And I think that there'll be some work to do, speaking with the proponents of the citizens petition. We've had this come up in the past at previous town meetings where we've had two articles, one a citizen petition and one sponsored by the town, both attempting to accomplish similar items of interest. And, we may be able to work with the proponents to get them to support the town's article so that there's not two conflicting articles being voted on at town meeting, but we have some work to do there. We'll stay tuned on how that'll work itself out, I would say.
Okay. Do we have a continuation on the articles, or is that it?
That's it. So now you could vote to close the warrant.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept and close the annual town meeting warrant and to send it to the Advisory and Finance Committee.
Seconded.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye.
Okay, we're back on short-term rental here. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the short-term rental bylaw advisory committee's proposed bylaw amendments and send the zoning portion of that proposal to the planning board.
Seconded.
Any further discussion?
I just like to make sure, since we just got this today, the short-term rental committee just finished these things last night, and we just got it today. We'll have an opportunity, once we've had a chance to read this thing, to make any suggested edits, I assume.
The zoning is set. Those can't be changed at this point because those are in the planning board and timing dictates. I think that's going to go now. Now, to the extent that there might be some comments on general, it's up to you guys to suggest anything that for the short-term rental bylaw advisory committee to make. But they can still stay alive. But the zoning is really that basically that's now a PDF versus a Word document.
I get it.
We're voting to accept and send this version on. We can open the warrant in the future, Josh, if we need to. But we have some additions or changes that might be recommended. But at this point, we're going to send this on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't tying our hands against for future amendments, since we haven't really had a chance to go through it in any detail.
So I think a point of clarification there, because it did come up at a previous short-term rental committee meeting. I don't know if the Board of Selectmen have the power to amend the bylaw themselves. Of course, if you have any suggested changes, you could speak. You could ask for the short-term rental committee to make a change to their suggested bylaw. But Dan, I'll ask you to clarify that. I understand. I think it's because of the way that the article at the previous town meeting was written.
Yeah, that's right. This is the short-term rental bylaw advisory committee's baby. They were empowered by a town meeting, so the selectmen have no what's the word? Authority, I guess, for lack of a better term, to change it. They can just ask the committee to make a change, the committee's been great in terms of receiving comments from everyone and using those to come up with something good. So it is, at the end of the day, it is the committee's decision based on the power given to them in their mandate by town meeting of 21, I think it was.
And of course, anybody, any member of the board or the public can request an amendment at town meeting if they want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and
Gene Canty, aye.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to receive the citizens petition regarding short-term rental bylaw and submit to the planning board.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Yeah, this is a citizens petition, so there can be no changes to it. It's whatever is in the petition, that's what it is. And that's what will be presented at town meeting.
I
Thanks
can point out, Mr. Chair, that a lot of this petition really belongs in the general bylaws. There's only one or two small that belong in terms of zoning, but it's really up to the petitioner to decipher which goes where, and to guide sort of the planning board in terms of what the zoning aspect of it is. It's not, we shouldn't be guessing as to what they expect to happen. That's why we're not being more sort of, this is zoning and this is general. So we're just sending everything to the board, the planning board.
Any further discussion?
My only other discussion is that somebody that's not muted has some background noise. So, other than that, I have no discussion.
Okay.
Where it's coming from, but
Roll
if you
call
hear
vote.
it's here. Josh Antrim,
Mark Cullen,
Gene Canty, aye.
okay, one final motion here. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the FY 24 budget and send it to the Advisory Finance Committee.
seconded.
Discussion. I think we've had that.
Yeah, I'd like to provide an overview of the budget. This current budget, it's a balanced budget for fiscal year 2024. We've worked very hard on being able to provide a balanced budget to you and the Finance Committee that attempts to satisfy the department requests that we received as best as we can, while also producing a balanced budget and meeting the needs of capital items and priorities of protecting the town's bond rating. We're continuing to, we have numbers in this budget that I hear the background noise as well.
I feel like it might be Eugene. Is there anything?
You have a TV on or a radio on in the background, Gene?
No,
You know, or a phone line open or something? It seems to be coming through your,
is it?
yeah, I think so.
Yep, it disappeared. Somehow it was coming through Gene's.
So once again, this budget meets the priorities that we've set forth with the Finance Committee over the last few years of especially using free cash from the general fund and retained earnings from water, sewer, and rubbish will be used appropriately for one-time capital expenses and debt service. Our free cash amount estimated for the upcoming year, which still needs to be certified by the state, is $972,535. We're utilizing those funds, as I mentioned, appropriately, and some of the details